New York City just passed a law allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. Jake Tapper recently covered it and gave his take. It just so happens his take is also indistinguishable from something you'd hear on Fox News, and I'm going to explain why he's so wrong.
You announced last night that you're going to support a law passed last month in New York City which will allow roughly 800,000 legal non-citizens to vote in local elections, provided that they've lived in New York for at least 30 days. You previously called the bill problematic and expressed concern about giving a right to vote to non-citizens who have only been here for a short amount of time. I think there are a lot of Americans watching right now who might share your concerns and also have more broadly questions about the idea of people who have not taken a citizenship test, prepared for that test by learning about the U.S., who haven't sworn an oath to the country, getting to vote. Why did you change your mind, and why is it acceptable for non-citizens to vote in an American election?
Okay, so first, the bill, Introduction 1867, is this. Non-citizens with legal status will be able to vote in local elections. This is DACA recipients, people with work visas, green card holders, people who live here, people who have a stake in the outcome of elections, but who aren't allowed to participate in them. Now, Republicans are fighting this, obviously. They don't want non-citizens to vote, they barely want citizens to vote. So while the law did pass, and Adams didn't sign it, he let it lapse into law, there are lawsuits and the bill may not survive, because when you read the law, it's pretty clear that non-citizens aren't really meant to vote. New York State election law states that no person shall be qualified to register for and vote in any election unless he is a citizen of the United States. Therefore, it appears that the new law may not be so secure against its opponents. And then the state constitution says that every citizen can vote in every election as long as they're 18 years old and have been a resident for 30 days. And therefore, if this were to apply to non-citizens with permanent residence, technically, some would be able to vote after being in the state for only 30 days, which some people are using to discredit the entire bill. Okay, so let's be charitable and say, I can understand why someone might pause at the idea of being able to move to Queens and only a few weeks later be able to participate in electoral decisions. Before someone understands the community, the city, the politics, you're voting for people to govern a city which you don't understand. But this would apply as much to someone from another country as from another state. If you don't think someone from Canada, let's say, should be allowed in the voting booth after only 30 days, should someone from Colorado? I think if we really take the concern seriously, which we shouldn't, because it's just being deployed in bad faith and it's anti-democratic, but let's play it out anyway. Out of 5 million voters, 1.15 million voted in the last mayoral election. It's roughly 25% turnout. And the new law is going to make probably 800,000 people eligible to vote. These are people with green cards, permanent residents, people who came over as kids but who have essentially lived in America their entire lives, and yes, some new arrivals. Well, since voter turnout is only about 25%, that 800,000 gets knocked down to more like 200,000? And then of those 200,000, how many will even know about their new suffrage? My guess would be not many, and especially because the next election doesn't feature high-profile offices like mayor, I don't see this altering electoral outcomes very much. But maybe you're worried about foreign influence. Anyone can come here and vote. I suppose if a foreign government wanted to send 100,000 people to live here for a month so that they could sway the outcome of the New York City comptroller election, or hey, only a few thousand votes could sway a council race, we're kind of leaving the window unlocked here on a very low-stakes Manchurian candidate scenario.
And what do you say to all the people who went through the process, the difficult process of becoming an American citizen, studying for the test, swearing an oath of allegiance to the United States of America, who now see this legislation just saying, well, anyone who's here, go ahead and vote?
This is the same crooked argument employed by people against college debt relief. Isn't it an insult to those who already paid their loan debt to simply eliminate the next generation's debt, or so the argument goes? Or in this case, we need to continue to disenfranchise thousands of taxpayers and people who live as Americans but are without citizenship status because other people before them went through the grueling multi-year naturalization process, maintaining a system of oppression so as not to dishonor those who have already survived it. This idea is stupid and cruel. And besides the fact that being able to vote is one of the least valuable benefits to becoming a citizen, non-citizens voting isn't even new. It's an old tradition with a long history in this country of what was once called alien suffrage. Between 1776 and 1926, 40 states and territories allowed non-citizens to vote in state, local, and even some federal elections. It was considered good policy to attract foreign workers, specifically white men, to labor in the frontier. Even the Confederacy, which at first feared alien suffrage would swell the ranks of abolitionist immigrants, succumbed to immigrant voting to attract workers after the Civil War. Xenophobia at the end of World War I became the death knell for the last remaining alien suffrage laws. So the name of the bill again is 1867. The group Our City, Our Vote was the major organization behind it, and it expands voting rights, something to which people like Jake Tapper purport to be devoted, but clearly that devotion only goes so far.